Welcome again to the Product Management View webinar series. I'm Susanna Baum from FeaturePlan, one of the sponsors of the webinar series, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm happy to introduce Renee Thompson, who will be talking to you about Agile, friend or foe to product management. More and more development teams are using Agile, which requires product managers to do the same. In this webinar, Renee will discuss the pros and cons of using Agile versus traditional waterfall development, and how product managers can successfully navigate the Agile landscape while maintaining their span of control over their products. Renee Thompson has over 13 years of business technology experience and leadership in online web strategies and applications, development and implementation of training programs, and product management. At Knowledge Storm, she's responsible for the management and direction of all product development to drive product strategy and the profitable growth of Knowledge Storm products and services. Her many responsibilities include providing leadership and structure for the product management team in creating business and functional requirements and design documentation, as well as the creation of product roadmaps, market analysis, strategic planning, sales support, and product training, ensuring the success of Knowledge Storm products and services from business plan concept through product launch. And so to speak to you about Agile, a friend or foe to product management, I'm very happy to introduce Renee Thompson. Take it away, Renee.
Thank you, Susanna. I would also like to, before we get started, thank FeaturePlan for putting on this webinar series. So if you're listening to this webinar, you probably know about Agile and probably have an opinion about it, or maybe you're thinking about adopting Agile, or someone in your organization is thinking about adopting Agile, and you want to know how to make sure you're not going to lose control over your product in the process. So today, we're going to discuss Agile from a product manager's perspective, specifically its pros and cons, and how to be successful if you do work in an environment with Agile. In case there's anyone listening who's not familiar with Agile, I'll spend just a couple of minutes to level set on that first. But if you need more details, there are a lot of sources out there, including a lot of good webinars archived on the Product Management View site. The other thing I want to state up front is that I am neither here to bash Agile nor to promote it. So my goal for today is to give you some guidance as to how you can be successful if you do use it and what some of the pitfalls can be to watch out for. All of this comes from my own personal experience as well as talking to lots of different product managers and developers who've used Agile as well as other development processes. So quickly, what is Agile? So for those of you who are not familiar, Agile is a development methodology. It uses an iterative, incremental process to develop multiple releases of a software product. It emphasizes collaboration, people over process, attempts to create a releasable product at the end of every iteration. The iterations are short, usually 1 to 4 weeks, and the approach is based on the fact that change is constant. It's designed to minimize the costs associated with that change through the iteration and collaboration. There are several types of Agile that you may have heard of, including Scrum, Extreme Programming, Feature-Driven Development, Microsoft Solutions Framework for Agile. My experience comes from Scrum methodology, and so you'll hear me reference that throughout the presentation today. And I think as we start to talk more about the pros and cons, if you're not very familiar with Agile, you'll definitely begin to get a clearer picture. So let's first talk about the pros of Agile. There are certainly some very important things that stand out. First and foremost, iterative development. Iteration allows for ease of response to change. As I mentioned earlier, there's one thing that we all know is constant, and that's change. So a criticism of traditional waterfall development is that users really don't know what they want up front, and what they want kind of emerges out of repeated interactions as you go through a project. So unfortunately, what then ends up happening is a lot of change ends up happening, and it can be very expensive in a traditional project. So if you're iterating and you're involving the customer and or the users during those iterations, theoretically you're able to get their feedback as you go, and you're able to avoid costly changes later. Collaboration. Collaboration is one of the key tenets of Agile. It stresses individuals and interactions over process and tools, and prefers face-to-face communication. So I think it's logical that increased collaboration